Hey guys, Chris here, and I'm a Ukrainian Canadian. Today's June 11th, 2023. Now let's get to the news happening in Ukraine, shall we? So, I first want to discuss, obviously, what's going on in Zaporizhia. I posted yesterday an image of the Ukrainian advancements that were confirmed by the pro-Russian channel Rybar. And so if they're confirming Ukrainian advancements, you can bet that the Ukrainians are definitely advancing, and very likely that they're also downplaying their losses. So at least I'm going to report what is already confirmed. And so the Ukrainian forces have been confirmed to have advanced towards Neskuchne, Blahodatne, and obviously have taken also Novodonetsk. So this is all around the area of Velyka Novosilka. This is the west axis of the Zaporizhian battles right now. And you can see that, of course, it's steady progress. It's nothing insane. I think that's the way that the Ukrainian forces are going to be advancing due to the amount of the heavy Russian defenses. You can see I'm going to be using this little map as a reference every time I'm going to be talking about Zaporizhia because I think it's important. We're not going to be seeing the kind of Kharkiv quick and shocking all type of offensive last year. It's not going to be the same here in Zaporizhia. You can see that the Ukrainians are just breaking through the first line of defense in certain areas, not all, and they have a lot more to come. And the biggest challenge is going to be obviously this second very long and well-connected line of defense that the Russians have built, and then afterwards there's other ones that they have to break through. So it's going to be a long grind, and let's not pretend that this is going to be a swift and quick breakthrough by the Ukrainians. They're taking one settlement at a time, positioning themselves for another attack and finding opportunities. So it's going to be long. And so now you can see that Blahodatne visually has also been confirmed under Ukrainian control, so that's great. And the Russians have also noted on this front that the Ukrainian shelling is nonstop. So the Ukrainians have really concentrated all of their artillery in this front to be able to pound the Russian positions. So you can see that Deep State updated the control areas. And you can see that Blahodatne, Neskuchne, it's kind of in gray, but Blahodatne is confirmed to be in Ukrainian control. And the Russians are retreating around this area back to better defensive positions. Now, it's also difficult for the Ukrainians to advance very quickly due to minefields, and you can bet that the Russians have really mined all of these fields with, hundreds, if not thousands of mines, so it's going to be difficult also clearing them up. And another thing that is impacting the Ukrainian advancements, and I showed you the losses, the Ukrainian losses in my previous video with the Leopard 2A6 being lost, a few Bradleys and some Max Pros. In that offensive, that mission that the Ukrainians had, there was another video that came out recently which showed the Russians using also kamikaze drones, the loitering drones that they have, the Lancet drones. So that definitely has an impact as well within advancements. You guys have seen how effective they were on the Ukrainian side in the Bakhmut defense. The Ukrainians have been using these first-person view drones where the operator is essentially flying these drones and very mobile and agile and can hit the Russians from above, and you can't expect that. And that Ukrainian convoy got a hit not only with these drones but also with the artillery. So the Russians really knew where to fire, and that's what really caused this offensive to fail, that specific one. And so the Russians, when we're considering that one little event, the Russians are using thousands of these drones, and they've realized how important drones are. The Ukrainians have really revolutionized drone warfare, and we've seen how effective they've been in Bakhmut and other fronts. And so the Russians are trying to recreate the same thing in Zaporizhia because it's just open, right? It's so open. The steppes, the Ukrainian steppes, are just fields and fields of open areas with very little tree cover. I constantly remind you guys of the environment here. It's no different than Kherson, to be very fair. And so there's very little areas where the Ukrainians can hide, which makes it very difficult. Additionally, on top of just to tag along with what I was saying about the drones, somewhere in Russia, and I apologize if I don't remember exactly where they're building the factory, they're building a massive drone factory that is confirmed with satellite images. And most likely it's in cooperation with the Iranians that they're developing either a new factory for Shahed drones or also the Lancet or other loitering drones that they're planning to build within the thousands to be able to use them in Ukraine. So it's going to make the job very difficult for the Ukrainian forces. And that's why I think having these jammers that we've seen being used on both sides, these drone jammers, are going to be very essential. And I think that we're going to see them being incorporated within Ukrainian assaults because the Russians are going to use a lot of these drones to attack the Ukrainian convoys, unfortunately. So overall, this is very positive. Let's be realistic here as well. I think that we're going to take it one day at a time. The Ukrainian advancement is steady, but it's a good progress, and I'm liking what I'm seeing here. As in, compared to a couple of days ago where everybody was already throwing the towel and saying that's it, the Ukrainians, due to the losses that we've seen, that image that the Russians have not shied away from sharing, that's it, the Ukrainians have to pack their bags and go home, the offensive has failed, NATO has failed. Like, let's not jump to conclusions so quickly. There will be losses on the Ukrainian side, as I've shown you, and you guys have seen them, and that's just part of the battle. It's part of the war that's happening right now. Now, also, I wanted to talk about the Bakhmut front because that's one front that I have often neglected the last few weeks. But there's also positive gains here from the Ukrainian side in the north of Bakhmut, the north axis. So the Ukrainians have essentially taken control of Orikhovo-Vasilivka and also moving towards Berkhivka and pushing again towards Yahidne. And they've been trying to fight and get control over Berkhivka for the past week, 2 weeks. So it's much more difficult here. And I think the Russians have better positions here. But you know that the goal here is to go to Soledar. It's to reverse the Russian gains in the last few months, right? They took Soledar around early February, late January, early February. So I think that the Ukrainians now are trying to head towards Krasnogora, Blagodatne, take control over this road that leads into Bakhmut, and thus also head to Soledar and take back control of this city. So over here, the Ukrainian forces are doing everything possible to cut off also this intersection that is around Paraskovivka and Yahidne, which also leads into north of Bakhmut. So we'll see what's going to happen, but the Russian soldiers are definitely complaining around here. I've been following their Telegram channels, the pro-Russian Telegram channels, saying that they don't have enough reinforcements. There's also a Russian video that came out of the soldiers' position here saying that they don't have any support whatsoever, and that they are considering withdrawal as well. So perhaps within the next week, we're going to start seeing some breakdowns, like a Russian breakdown of their defenses around Berkhivka, Yahidne. So this is also very positive. Now, there's also a special demining operation happening by, thankfully, from the Russians. So this is a report that came out today saying that the Russian troops are suffering casualties in the face of the ongoing Ukrainian attacks due to being blown up in their own minefields. And I showed you the video last time with the Russian withdrawal in Zaporizhia, somewhere in Zaporizhia. And you could see about 30 or 50 of these men just falling back to the second line. And so in an evaluation of the Russian military's performance against Ukrainian attacks this week, the British Ministry of Defense, in its daily report on Saturday, said Russian performance has been mixed. Some units are likely conducting credible maneuver defense operations, while others have pulled back in some disorder amid increased report of Russian casualties as they withdraw through their own minefields. So that's great because, as I've mentioned, the Russians have mined the hell out of Zaporizhia and other fronts, and so it's going to make make the job difficult for the Ukrainians. But if they can run through them themselves, the Russians, and that's just making life easier for the Ukrainians. So it's yet another example of poor training and communication by the Russian army. And it's really surprising. How come they didn't know where the clear routes are, right? I'm sure they took into account the fact that they're going to need to withdraw on certain fronts. And the lack of communication, again, is playing into the Ukrainian advantage, in my opinion. But I'm very happy that the Russians are doing a great demining operation here. Very positive. And last but not least, this is, again, a very positive news because, I've been covering the internal conflict within the Russian Ministry of Defense and Wagner. And you could see this to be a subtle act by Shoigu to undermine Prigozhin's power. And so here, this was translated by Anton Herashenko. This is a video from the Russian Ministry of Defense having a meeting and then ordering by July 1st that all volunteer units to be officially signing contracts with the Russian Ministry of Defense, essentially being part of the Russian MOD. So all the volunteer and private military units are going to sign officially contracts only with the Russian Ministry of Defense, being part of their structure. So they did not mention Wagner here, but you can see that this is most likely Shoigu's attempt to take Wagner's operatives under his control and also undermining Prigozhin's power. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens by July 1st because this decree has been signed will take effect as of July 1st. And it'll be very interesting to see, end of June, early July, what will be Prigozhin's reaction. Will he go completely dark and not say a single thing and disappear? Or will he go, guns out? And to me, it'll be very interesting. I hope he goes guns out because that's only going to bring more instability internally within Russia. And perhaps, he's going to start siding more towards, liberating Russia and, telling the Russians to take action and fight against the Russian, regime. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. But, to be very fair with you guys, I think Prigozhin, being the man that he is, or, the man that he isn't, I don't think he's going to do much. And I think he's going to go dark and he's going to disappear. But we'll see. We never know. Nobody can predict the future. So that's the video for today, guys. I just wanted to kind of quickly go over the Ukrainian gains the last few days. I think it's really going well. Let's be realistic here. Let's be patient. Let's be optimistic as well. But I think that the gains are great. So that's it for today, guys. Please, if you enjoy my content, please subscribe to my channel, like the video, and leave me a comment. Thank you so much, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.